They died when they were children. He sees a mummified human body. My mother's doppelganger wants to come out and get me. No, he just sees a shadow and he ducks his head and he's praying. Scary story time sent in by fans while making slime, part 2. Before we rest these clips, like and subscribe, because if you ain't got me in your life, what are you doing? Hey y'all, it's me and welcome to Amber TV, and in today's video we're going to be telling scary story times while making slime, because why freaking not? This video was heavily requested, so let's get into it. Get your money's worth and what? Let it drink. This story time is called The Voice in the Basement, and it was sent in by a man named Tommy. Tommy, he grew up in a 2-story house with a basement, and this basement wasn't exactly finished. It had uneven floors, pipelines was exposed, so it wasn't, the best place to be for real. But one day, Tommy was home alone, his mama was at work, his brother was at his girlfriend's house, and his dad was with some friends, so he decided he was going to do some laundry. Now, when he goes down to do the laundry, he's really just chilling and vibing for real. He in his own zone. And then out of nowhere, he hears his mother say, "Tommy, come here," from upstairs. Now, initially, this made him freeze. Like, he was like, are we for real? And so he's like, okay, I'm coming. And as he walks to the basement stairs, this is when it hits him. My mama is at work. What you mean, come here? So he's like, why do you need me to go up there? And there was no answer. Like, it was literally quiet. No answer. I'm getting goosebumps. No answer for a good 5 minutes straight. And then out of nowhere, as he's about to start walking again to go back to the laundry, so then out of nowhere, Tommy hears footsteps coming down the basement stairs fast as crap. So he hides, because where else can he go? There's no other exit. He hides as fast as he can. From this moment on, he's freaked out because he sees a shadow, but he cannot see anything. He just sees a shadow and he ducks his head and he's praying. He was there for about a good hour until his mom came back and said, "I'm home." And he yelled from the basement for her to come down there. And she's like, "Bro, what are you doing down here?" And he told her everything. And she was like, "Well, that's creepy." And she showed him the timestamp of her still being at work during that time. So Tommy moved out because Tommy was 23 years old, and honey, I would have did the same thing. I'm not gonna keep being alone by myself and my mother's doppelganger wants to come out and get me. No. Okay, y'all, so this next story time is called My Neighbor's Daughters, and it was sent in by a woman named Sammy. When Sammy was about 5 or 6 years old, she got some new neighbors, and it was this man with his 3 daughters. This man seemed grumpy. He always seemed like the mean, grumpy neighbor, so Sammy and her friends decided to leave him alone because he would always grouch and be mean whenever they accidentally left the ball on his lawn. But Sammy always seen his 3 daughters from the window, and she always thought, wow, what a mean man. He's keeping his 3 daughters hostage. This is just terrible. She would wave to them, they would wave back. When the old man decided to leave to go to the grocery store, she seen them getting in the car, and that was that. One day, years later, Sammy is outside waiting for her other friends to ride her bike. And out of nowhere, she sees one of the neighbor's daughters come outside. So she's honestly shocked because little kids was never allowed to come outside. And she immediately waves her hand and says, "Hey, do you want to come play with me?" And the little girl goes, "Yes, I would love to come play with you." So for about maybe, a good hour or two, Sammy and the neighbor's daughter are outside playing, and up until her friends come along and she hears her friends call her name. She runs over there and she tells her friends, "Oh my gosh, guys, the neighbor's daughter is outside." And they're like, "Wait, where?" And when they go back, the daughter is completely gone. She's not there anymore. So obviously Sammy's friends are like, "Are you good?" And she's like, "Bro, I promise she was just here. I'm not lying." And they obviously thought she was lying. Now, years later, oh my gosh, I got goosebumps. Years later, right? Sammy done graduated high school. She's a senior in college, and she asked her mom about the neighbors. She asked her mom about the neighbor's daughters. Whatever happened to them? Why could they never go outside? What did they ever do? And this is when her mom and her dad was like, "What are you talking about?" And she was like, "The neighbor's daughters. I always seen them through the window. I always seen them. I always waved to them, but they could never come outside. And I remember one time as a child, I got to play with them." And the mother had this pale expression on her face, and she was like, "What? What's going on?" And this is when Sam's mother goes, "All of his daughters are dead." excuse me? What do you and she goes, what do you mean? I literally played with one. When did they like die? And she was like, they died when they were children, like before he moved here. So who was the little girl that I was playing with then if they died when you know they were children? And she was like, okay, how old did they die? And and the mother was like, they died when they were like maybe like 3 or 4, literally right before they moved to her town. So you're telling me she was seeing, I have freaking goosebumps. She was seeing her neighbor's dead daughters her entire childhood, even going through high school. And she just thought that he was strict. Man, this is crazy. To the second slime, and this story time is called The Woman in the Basement, and it was sent in by someone who wants to remain anonymous. This person, who we're just gonna call Miley and her fiance decided to move to a new house, and this house was in the country and it was old. It was an old Victorian house. Y'all already know how I feel about old houses. Now, when they got there initially, there was a couple of renovations that they had to do, like, you know, fixing the main hallway, the bathroom, stuff like that. But Miley really wanted to fix her basement. Miley wanted her basement to be tea. Okay, she wasn't playing with that. So she kept harassing her husband like, we need to renovate our basement. It looks terrible right now. And with Miley doing that, before the renovation, she started to have literal nightmares. She started to have nightmares about a woman, but it was like the nightmares that would never finish. It was like the woman would pop up and scare the life out of her, and that was that. But she initially brushed it off because, like, you know, she just lives in an old house, but you know, she brushed it off. Also, at night, keep in mind, she was hearing footsteps above her head. But you know, footsteps in the basement, footsteps above her head, but you know, she brushed it off because she thought it was an old house. Old houses make weird noises. No, they don't. Anyways, getting back into the freaking story time, literally like the day of the renovation. Okay, so the day of the renovation, fast forward, her and her husband are down there figuring out everything that they're gonna do, and out of nowhere, she just gets this feeling to want to renovate the floor. She's like, this floor is hideous. I want to renovate the floor. We got to do something about it. So her husband's like, are you sure? It's gonna take longer. We're gonna have to tear everything apart. This house is old. And she's like, bro, let's just do it. So the day of the renovation, they start to tear apart the floor when they start to notice a foul freaking odor. They can't explain this odor, but it's just foul. So they probably thought like a rat crawled under the floor and, you know, unfortunately unalived, or any other animal, a critter for real. Up until they hit literally directly under where her room is at. She sees a mummified human body. That will do it. Let's move out. Let's just call the police, leave it here, and move out. Bye bye. No, do you think they do that? No. So obviously, they're shocked and she's scared. She screams and they're like, okay, we have to call the police. So that's what they do. They call the police. They're like, bro, we found a body in our basement, and the police come as quick as they can. But you know, they're in the middle of the country in an old Victorian house that literally looks haunted. Anyways, slime literally just won't freaking activate. But the police pull up and they, you know, get the body and everything, and come to find out that the woman was a woman who was kidnapped and was missing for, oh my gosh, why is the thing moving, several like years. Well, at this point it's been 100 years, but she was missing. Her Victorian family reported her missing. They never found her, and it turns out that she's been in her own home this entire time. I would move out, but no. The anonymous person that we're just gonna call Miley, she did not move out, and she's still living there to this day, and this happened like 3 years ago. This next story time is called Stalker, and it was sent in by a woman named Julie. Now this story time takes place 3 years ago. Now Julie is a 45-year-old wife with 3 kids, so safe to say that her schedule is pretty busy. Now she works a 9 to 5. She works when she gets home. She pretty much never has any time off. At this point in time, her husband and kids decided that they were going to go on a camping trip. Now when they go on this camping trip, Julie is happy. She's finally gonna have the house to herself. herself. She gets off at like 6 o'clock, and as she's walking to her car, she noticed that there's a car parked 2 spaces away from her, and this car is on and it's just sitting there. So she sits there trying to see if this car is going to take off before she does, but it doesn't. And then when she takes off and leaves the parking garage, she looks back in her rear view mirror and she sees this car coming out at the same time as her. But you know, she's brushing it off. She's tired. She wants to get home. She wants to get in the bath. She wants to take her time for real, because she got it finally. And when she's driving, she's noticing that this same black car is making all the turns that she's making all the stops that she is. And so she decides that she's going to turn on her street. By the way, if you think that you're getting followed, don't ever turn into your neighborhood. Go to the nearest police department. Now, she's turning into her neighborhood and she's like, okay, I'm delusional. Like, this is not the same black car that was at my job. News flash, it was. And so she gets out and she notices that the car stops at the same time as her, literally like parks like 3 houses down, and this freaks her out. So she can't call her husband, so she decides that she's just gonna go in the house and lock all the doors. She goes in the house, and when she makes it inside of the house, she literally sees pictures all over her counter. This slime is so sticky. Pictures all over her counter of her at work, her dropping her kids off to school, her at soccer practices, like just her doing different things. And this initially freaked her all the way out. And then out of nowhere, she heard a voice coming from the basement, and I'm getting goosebumps. She is just like, bro, like, this cannot be real. So she calls the police, and the police come and they review the footage, but there was no black car that was following her. Like, she pulled up to her house, she was by herself. There was no black car. They couldn't even find it on the neighbor's ring. So she's freaked out, but she's like, maybe I'm just so tired that I'm making things up. She decides to go to sleep. Everybody's thinking she's crazy, and then out of nowhere, she hears 3 knocks on her bedroom door. She jolts up like no tomorrow. She's like, bro, I'm not making this up. And then she hears 3 knocks on her window, and she's just all the way freaked out, because where could she go at this point? Like, it seems like whatever is following her is with her. So she's all the way freaked out. She calls her husband. Obviously, her husband does not answer, because her husband is on a camping trip and he's probably sleeping at this point with no service. And then out of nowhere, she hears, "I will get you." And this just set her off. She jumped up, she grabbed her keys, and she got in her car. And she literally was in her car for, I think, a couple of hours before her husband and her kids came back. She told her husband everything, and her husband tells her that he believes her, but he actually didn't. And unfortunately, no one ever like believes her. Do y'all? I personally do, because it's safe to say some spirits can't follow you. So I believe her. Nobody believed her. Everyone thought she was crazy, but I don't think that she was making this up in her head. Me personally, I don't. But unfortunately, y'all, this is the last story time, because I have no space. Yay! Anyways, if y'all want more scary slime story times, just let me know, and I will buy a new phone so I can film longer videos. Bye, guys. Mwah. Sammy was about 5 or 6 years old. There was this house. When Sammy was about 5 or 6 years old, there was this unoccupied. When Sammy was about 5 or 6